On this episode of the Always Bullish Podcast presented by Toro Media, I'm joined by my normal co-host Matt Sullivan, CEO of Toro Media, a close partner of ours, Mike Pitt, the executive director of the Pete Frates Foundation. We're also joined by two incredible guys, Mike Brown and Dave Miller. Mike and Dave, best friends for a long time. We got to hear where it started, where they are, and where they're trying to go. Mike Brown is fighting a courageous battle right now against ALS, and hearing the stories of two seriously accomplished athletes, coaches, how they're still coaching and they're still battling, the normal everyday life that they've enjoyed for a long time, but how the two of them have come back together, to fight Mike's battle as a unit. And we get to hear about Mike's mindset, which is incredible, that although he's going against this monster right now, how his mindset has shifted, that he doesn't have a day to waste, and that he is, as Lou Gehrig said, the luckiest man in the world, that he gets to, inspire other people, but also realize how many people care about him and have his back. So there's a lot in here, but at the same time, it is five baseball guys kind of shooting the breeze and having a fun conversation as well. So really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
Well, he really hit the shit out of that one, didn't he? Look at that. He hit the fucking bull.
I think that's why we wanted to do this podcast, right? Was to hear that story. Good for you. That's awesome.
You don't want to fade Logan's locks. Like, that's something you typically don't want to do.
Toro, Spanish for bull. Noun, badass digital marketing agency ready to make your life simple AF.
All right, and we are back. Always Bullish Podcast here. Very excited today. We're with David Miller, Mike Brown, Mike Pitt, and my co-host, Matt Sullivan. Pleasure having everyone on the podcast today. I'm excited. Common thread here, baseball, right? A bunch of baseball guys. And as we kind of touched on earlier, anytime you get five baseball guys in a room together, things tend to go off the rails. So that is what I am anticipating for this podcast. But jumping in, Mike and David, I've heard a ton about you guys. The common thread being teammates, right? I know you go a ways back here. You're still teammates now. And I think being a teammate is just a big part of your story across the board. So, the first thing I wanted to ask you was, when did you meet? Did you click right away? When did you first start being teammates?
Dave, want me to handle that or take that?
You're always good at this one. He knows this story better than I do.
So to be perfectly honest, and it does get lost over many years, right? The stories of accuracy. Dave's actually a little older than I. But he and I went to the same high school. Yeah, and better looking. Older and better. Yeah. Aged well. Look at that guy. He's 78 years old. But he's actually a little older, and I think the story actually makes it better that we weren't ever actual teammates, and this is why the story of our relationship is actually that much better than what just being teammates are. So Dave, again, he and I went to a very, very prestigious, amazing private high school in the Philadelphia area. And again, Dave, he won't say it, but I'll tell you, he is probably regarded as maybe the greatest athlete to ever go through the school, of a school that has generated many professional and amazing athletes, Olympians, and he may be the best of all. So when he was, he's probably about 6 years older than I, as he was going through the system, he had a great career at the high school. Went on to play college baseball at Clemson, where he took the team and the number one team to the World Series, I think twice, and then was a first-round draft pick by the Indians. As I was coming through the same school, because he did go to school with my brother and sister, so I had met him as a young kid, and who I idolized this guy. So as I was coming through, I was also showing early success as a freshman and sophomore in baseball, in basketball and baseball. But Dave forgets to tell people that not only did he play baseball at Clemson, he walked on his freshman year and actually made Clemson's basketball team, which is like unheard of. So he actually walked on, made an ACC team just as a walk-on, which is like insane. Of course, he'll tell you he had to quit because the baseball coach was like, "Hey, man, it's either baseball or basketball, dude. Like, we're paying you a lot of money, or we're giving you a scholarship money to come here to play baseball. So make a choice. And ultimately, he chose, obviously, wisely choosing baseball, the greatest sport ever invented, right? So I had the opportunity when we were traveling. We had this amazing coach that we shared, who is just, he has made, at least I can speak for myself, but maybe I can speak for David. He has made me who I am today, right? And we don't have any more today, which crushes us. But he saw that, hey, this kid, being me, could really benefit from meeting a guy like David, who could serve as a really good mentor. So I met David after he was a first round pick, 23rd or 24th overall by the Indians. And he just selflessly took me under his wing and kept in touch with me all through high school, throughout his professional career, throughout my collegiate career, to the point where that mentorship had turned into a very close friendship. So it actually, in my opinion, when you look at the years that he has put in, not only mentoring me through my baseball career, which obviously didn't go nearly as far as his, to then cultivating a very meaningful friendship, to then eventually coaching against one another at the high school level, to then moving on to him going on to coaching at the collegiate level, and me basically bribing my way to join him on the coaching staff to try to, because my ultimate goal was, when I finished my career in law enforcement, I was gonna get back into baseball full time, because I know very little about many things, but the one thing I feel like I know is baseball. So at 50, when I could retire, I was going to go to baseball full time. And obviously, with the current situation, my game plan got rapidly sped up. And of course, Dave yet again to the rescue.
That's awesome.
Well,
Dave, were you a spot up corner guy? What was did you have handles? Who did you bribe to make the team at Clemson?
Well, so the story was, I mean, I was recruited just as heavily for basketball out of high school as I was for baseball. One of my big scholarships offers for basketball was North Carolina, and that was always a dream of mine, but I wanted to play baseball. And the hilarious thing about it was the baseball team at North Carolina didn't want me. So, so like, I ended up choosing Clemson, and we used to play the football team in the rec center, like, religiously.
Oh yeah.
Now, they had some studs. I mean, they had some athletes, and we just went in there, and I could always jump. I mean, I had a huge vertical, and then a lot of people didn't realize I was left-handed, so they would always guard me to my right. I'd drive by them and just dunk on everybody. And then they would all freak out that, like, guy like me would be dunking on the football team. And it just, one day there was the basketball coach was in there watching, and, he's like, basketball tryouts are coming out. I made a couple phone calls about you. I heard you were a stud. Would you like to try out? And I said, yes, I would. And I went to my coach. Bill Wilhelm was his name at the time. And I asked him if I could try out. He said, absolutely. And I made the team. And then as baseball season started, I was not around visibly. And I guess they had saw some interest in me playing early as a freshman. So they told me that if I wanted to continue to play basketball, I'd have to give up my baseball scholarship. And I didn't want to do that. And midway through, Clemson, my freshman year, I won the starting job, and I never looked back. So,
People also forget he is a 6'6" left-hander. So It wasn't like he was a 5'9" left-hand kid rising
I
up.
I also had a
slowing down
40. I had a 40-inch vertical, and that
Did you really?
I did. So I mean, I could jump. I mean, it was fun. I mean,
God damn.
I could tell you some stories, but I mean, it would we'd play these Philly All-Star games, and I would always be the last guy in, and then I would make 3 threes and dunk a ball, and then I'd always start the second half. And it was like, where did this kid come from? But you know, you're growing up in Philadelphia. I could name some names of guys that we just I mean, you know, Rasheed Wallace, Alvin Williams, Katino Mobley. Like these guys were guys that we played basketball against regularly, and like Rasheed probably had Alvin Williams 20-year NBA career, and I mean we would just play these guys on Saturday pickup, and you know you had to survive. You had to learn how to be tough and play ball, so that's what we did.
That
If
vertical.
if I could piggyback one thing on Mike about Mike always said that I was a mentor to him. You know, there was a time where it flip-flopped. I, as a first rounder, I shot up. And when I finally got up to the big league level, I got hurt. I tore my hamstrings. And as fast as I went up, I always tell them as fast as I went down. And what was it, 2003, Mike? I caught up with Mike again as I'm trying to save my career. And Mike was this jacked CIA killer who who took me under his wing, and he started training me. He got me healthy again, and he got me back in shape. He took me to the gym every day, pushed me, and actually brought my career back to where I played a couple more years before the injury bug ended it. But Mike was very selfless that he would find an hour and a half, 2 hours every day to come train me in the LA Fitness in our hometown in Philly. So I'm very grateful for that. So don't let him tell you that he didn't do anything for me. So.
No, it's an incredible story. The two of you, constantly giving back to one another, which, kind of brings me a little bit to this essential blank canvas of bringing back a program. Is that you guys have had insane experiences. You guys kind of come up together with certain, maybe expectations and different things that have kind of made you who you are today. With bringing back a program like LaSalle, like where do you even start with something like that? There's there's coaches that are jumping ship to like new programs, and there's kind of like a footprint of like stepping into something, but you're like stepping into something that you have to kind of really start from scratch. Like, where do you even begin? But I feel like your experiences are ready to rock and roll, but I wouldn't know where to start.
You gotta be careful. You guys. Dave is taking like the lion's share, 99.999% of the load. So that's up for him to answer.
Well, when LaSalle folded in 2021, it was really, it broke my heart. I mean, my wife went to LaSalle University. Some of my best friends who played basketball at LaSalle. It was just something. I don't know if you're college basketball people, but in the late 80s, early 90s, LaSalle University was the number one team in the country. Lionel Simmons, Kareem Towns, Tim Legler, Paul Burke. Whoever I met, it was a place it was a destination place to go watch college basketball. So it always had a special place in my heart. The baseball team was a little bit different. It wasn't very good. When Mike was the assistant coach at Chestnut Hill Academy, I was the head coach at our rival school up the street called Penn Charter. So like a lot of people don't know Penn Charter, but if you ever saw the TV show The Goldbergs, did you ever see that? That whole show was based off of Penn Charter, like that kid filming. Yeah, so when you use the gym coach, Coach Meller, I took Coach Meller's job to be the baseball coach when he retired. So like, it's a cool little story, but so I was there, and we had turned a high school team into a highly nationally ranked team where I had 6 draft picks in 2017 was my last year. And
It was the closest thing to a Division I college program as a high school team that you could get. I mean, they have guys in the big leagues right now, starting in the big leagues. Sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Crazy.
we had some good kids. And LaSalle was coming off like an 8-win season, something really not good. I don't want to talk bad about LaSalle, but I love the school. But they were not a good baseball team, and the athletic director asked me to, can you do what you did at Penn Charter to LaSalle? And a lot of my mentors and college coaches who are SEC head coaches were calling me, telling me, like, Dave, this is not the way to get your college career started. You know, it's tough. We didn't have indoor facilities. We had a 20-year-old turf that was like the old Astro turf in Houston. It was rough, man.
Wow.
But the more people told me not to do something, that's just the way guys like me and Mike tick is. To keep telling me I can't. People told me I was too small my whole life. I'm 6'6". You know, I'm not. You know, but I was 5'4" in 8th grade. Everything that happens, I use that to keep a chip on my shoulder. So I took the job, and 4 years later, we had the best record in school history. I had 6 draft picks on that team, and then we get the unfortunate call that they're going to drop the program to put money into basketball. And that sucked, dude. That was horrible. So I left. I took a job at a D3. 1 year there, I helped a kid hit 550 with 30 bombs. I feel like God has a plan for all of us, man. I was meant to be at Penn State. Then I was meant to go to Manhattan College. But then LaSalle and their alumni came to their senses and decided they needed to bring the program back. And I got unfinished business there, man. So it's like I'm ready to do it. I need challenges in my life, and there's nobody that I want more in my corner than Mike Brown. So, if anybody can handle the challenges with me, it's going to be this dude. So I look forward to it. We've done a good job. We already have a 34th ranked recruiting class in the country.
Wow.
We don't even have locker rooms yet. We don't have an indoor. We got to raise money and do all that. So, shit, if you guys can plug us at the end to help support us, we need it.
Yeah,
man. I mean, well, LaSalle's lucky to have you guys. If they're going to resurrect the program, there's no guys that they would do it with, right?
We
meant for the job.
Yeah, no, I think in general, baseball is all about failure and adjustments and overcoming things. And I was having a conversation with my wife last night because I was trying to sign up for some sort of challenge, one of these like fitness, triathlons, things like that. And my wife's like, why the heck would you do that? And it's the same thing that you just said, David. You're just like, I need something to challenge me and look forward to. And I mean, what a challenge ahead of you. So, but that's pretty badass to already have the 34th ranked recruiting class. Like, it sounds like you got some young bucks
with no locker rooms,
hungry.
With no locker,
with no locker
I just sell that
should
one.
be a shirt. You should make a shirt.
Well, the funny thing is, this is the only LaSalle shirt they gave me. I don't even have a budget for gear yet. So we'll all that comes in the fall of next year.
Print your own.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, David, we touched upon your athletic background. Mike, you're no slouch either, man. You touched upon it, and don't be humble.
Sure.
Overinflate. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Let's hear about your background, man.
1,000-point scorer. Come on, man. Don't be modest.
It pales in comparison to. I was fortunate where now Dave and I are both in our high school's athletic Hall of Fame, not academic Hall of Fame on my side. There's probably 11 or 12, I think, at this point, 1,000-point scores in basketball. And yes, I am the 5'9" guy. But one of the things that was tough about doing that was I'm the only guy to have had to have played with 3 other 1,000-point scorers. And when we played basketball, they still only played with 1 ball on the court. So I had to somehow get my points even when the school's all-time leading scorer, his brother, and a guy 1 year or 2 years younger than I also scored 1,000 points.
So you guys had 4,000-point scorers on the same team.
We had 3 on the same team at one point. So one was a senior, junior. I was there, and the other kid was in 8th grade, getting ready to come up. As soon as one of the brothers graduate, then there's 3 more of us on there, and they were all they were all basketball players. They were far better than I. I mean, it was pretty one-dimensional. I could shoot, but I had this coach, and Dave can attest this. I had this coach who just knew how to get every little thing out of every single player from his team. I mean, we won a very competitive league with a team that should not have won. Literally, we won a league that had 2 legitimate basketball players, whereas other teams, I think at that point, Germantown Academy, which was a dominant basketball program where Alvin Williams went, they had like 7 Division I players on the team at that time. One guy went on to win a national championship at Florida. Another guy went to Duke. Like, we should not have beaten them. We just happened to have 2 legit basketball players. They happen to be really good basketball players, which helps. But baseball is kind of where I kind of saw more success, but it also helps too. I was a catcher, right? Who wants to catch? So you listen, everyone's a shortstop, everyone's an outfielder. So I was playing a position that, first of all, our head coach, that was his sweetheart of a position. And I could have gone out and played the greatest game ever, but he would let me know where I messed up, even though I may have not messed up at all. But he found a mistake here and there, and it just kept pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. And that this silly, ridiculous, perfect game got my college paid for. So I was fortunate enough to go play at Temple University, which is Division I program. And we used to beat the crap out of LaSalle every year because that was a poor program. They were in our conference. But I would say I am your prototypical workhorse. At that time, I didn't have a 40-inch vert. I'm not 6'4". I don't run like the wind. I didn't have a cannon for an arm. I just did all the little things that our coach John McGardle, who he did play professional baseball, and he actually also played at Temple and took them to the College World Series back in the 70s when they were the number 1 or number 2 college team in the program in the country. But he preached just doing all the little things that guys, when you're 6'6" and super athletic, that maybe you can get away with not doing as much as a 5'9", 175-pound guy.
This dude is taking quiet jabs at me all day, man.
It's because you got the shirt, man. You got the
I will say this: Mike Brown was Steph Curry before Steph Curry was born, man. He could drop threes from 30 feet like nobody else's business. He had the sweetest shot I ever saw, and yeah, he could play some hoops. The guy was. If I can give you a 2-second background on our coach, John McGardle coached us both. I could have gone 4 for 4 with 4 home runs, threw a perfect game, struck out 21 in 7 innings, and he will tell me everything I did wrong that day. And that is what made us tougher athletes. He taught us how to embrace the bad days as much as the good days. But he had a yell about him. I don't know if you ever met a guy that when he gets mad, as soon as his voice elevates, like you're a turtle going into your shell, like it just John was a big man. He was about what 300 pounds, 300 plus pounds. He had calves,
in his earlobes.
dude, and he could scare the shit out of you.
It was
I hope we're
badass
allowed to
dude.
curse on this, but he was the most loving, gentle giant in the world. But he's what made us. He's what made us tough. We went to this private school, but we all had to grow up fast. We had to be tough athletes.
When he went to the same private school as we did, but he was from a different part of Philadelphia that was not. It was from Northeast Philadelphia. He was raised tough. I mean, this guy's taking the train to school, which is not common for the school where we went. It was, and then he stayed around the school because he had so much pride in the school. But his upbringing and his coaching style is really what elevated guys like me to sort of take the game further. Listen, Dave would have been a star anywhere because of his insane work ethic and athleticism. But he would take guys like me who did not have the natural gifts that others have, and he was able to propel me to do things that any other guy probably couldn't do.
You guys are breeding winners over there. They're just rattling off.
Yeah,
insane numbers.
I'm winning now,
athletes.
right?
Yeah. But
Stop.
The way that you guys kind of came up, just constantly sharpening each other's tools, and not focusing and praise on the good stuff, but just focusing on how to improve constantly. It's like clearly you guys are rising to the top with that type of attitude. It sounds like bringing that attitude over to LaSalle is going to have a pretty big impact right out of the gates.
We were just always taught, if you want something, dude, how bad do you want it? How hard are you going to work for it? Like that's never left us. I mean, I tell my kids every day, like, how hard do you work to be a good high school baseball player? I work pretty hard, coach. Well, how hard do you think you're going to have to work to make my starting lineup when every kid on the Division I college team is the same ability as you, same talent level as you? Like, I'll get you where I got to go, but then everything you got to do behind the scenes when we're not watching, that's what's going to take you to the next level. So, hopefully they get it. And some kids do, some kids don't. But me and Mike, we got it.
Yeah, Mike, it's like, we started off talking, I think the first words out of your mouth were grinding, and like that's what you got to do. It's don't tell me, it's show me, right?
Yeah, man.
Right.
It's you guys, Mike, you're the epitome of the ultimate grinder. It's funny too. I think we maybe touched on this when we met briefly up at the prep, but like that's kind of Mike, your story is kind of Pete's story. Like, good athlete, not great, not phenomenal. Wasn't the tallest, fastest. Hit the hardest, threw the fastest. He didn't even start on our high school team till senior year. St. John's Prep, they always had a solid team, D1 talent all over the place.
Yeah, that was Mike too.
Yeah.
But it's like, you keep working, you keep grinding, man. Good things will happen. I love it.
Yeah, Mike, first of all, I was wearing the tools of ignorance with you. I was a catcher in college, so I think you and I have a little bit of a brotherhood here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a common thread, right? Reading up on you guys, listening to you talk, get the most out of every day, get the most out of every opportunity. The thing that I like to hear, because I'm coaching now as well, high school kids, right? So I want selfishly to take something here. One thing you said was you got the most out of every kid, and you were able to beat teams and win a league where you were, outclassed as far as talent goes. How do you do that? How do you get the most out of every kid?
So it's Dave and I are kind of smiling because
go ahead, tell.
Yeah. So I am very much like the guy who coaches. I yell. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how good you are. I don't care if you're a starter. I don't care if you're on the bench. I don't care if you're doing the scorebook. I will let you know when you mess up because that's what I learned and that's the only way I know. And for most part, especially in today's world, kids are not held accountable or trained or taught the way that a lot of us were as we were growing up. And quite frankly, I don't like it. I don't like the lack of discipline. Now Dave is also the same way, but for some reason, some kids it resonates a little differently when you can really establish a really good culture and understanding that you're playing for the guy next to you, that it's your team is first, then your teammates, and then it's yourself. I mean, there was a stretch, and this is nothing obviously against Dave. Dave had a stretch of baseball teams that were just absolutely phenomenal. Years that our high school team did not belong on the same field as that team. Dave, do you agree? I mean, we had teams that just
You
did
talking
not
about Chestnut
belong.
Hill?
Yes.
We were the number 6 ranked team in the country. I went 28-2 that year. Both my losses were to Mike.
Yeah. Just
That
somehow grind.
he lets me know about it
grinding.
every time we go have beers.
I always have two beers for the 2 losses that year. I mean, his teams were phenomenal, and they were disciplined, good teams. It just, for some reason, we just had a knack, especially in those big games, to get every little thing possible. And listen, sports are the way it goes. We play that team 50 more times. Maybe he wins the next 48, right? It's just the laws of nature of the way the game goes. It just happened to be those are the 2 games. Those are the 2 times that in that year. I mean, but we had a stretch where it was a few years in a row where we didn't belong on the field with them, but we somehow were able to overcome their extreme talent, their phenomenal coaching. I mean, not only was Dave their coach, they had another coach who's there now who like drips baseball. So like a phenomenal baseball guy. So it wasn't from a lack of coaching or baseball standards. It was just, and both our team and their team are two of the 3. I would say, Dave, and you can agree or disagree. Two of the 3 best coached teams in all of Pennsylvania, between Malvern, Penn Charter, and Chestnut Hill Academy.
Mike was in law enforcement. I don't know if I'm like he was Secret Service. Like Mike's probably seen more than we'll ever even think about. Mike doesn't panic. And Mike is able to get his players to understand, which I've been trying forever. Like I coach a little differently than Mike. I'm a pro style coach. I try not to show too much emotion. If the kids make an error, I'm the same voice I am as if they hit a grand slam. But Mike is able to get these guys to understand how to stay low blood pressure all the time. And so when people would play my team in high school, and my center fielder is now the center fielder for the St. Louis Cardinals, my left fielder's with the Colorado Rockies, my best pitcher threw 97 miles an hour. He's in the minor leagues with the Mets. My second best pitcher actually throws 100 from the left. He's with the Boston Red Sox minor league team. We were unbelievable, and every team we played geared up like it was Game 7 of the World Series. Like it was beat Penn Charter, and nobody could do it. But Mike was able to get those guys to not ever panic. And I'll never I went to Chestnut Hill Academy, and as a coach, Mike, I couldn't beat Mike. So it was an easy decision for me when I go back to college. He thinks I'm using it because of his what he's going through now. I'm like, screw that, dude. If you can't beat him, then they got to join you. So Mike's going to come join.
Love that.
But
Everyone knows
I did give him carte blanche. I said, "Listen, man, use me any way you have to. Make something good from this horrible thing that not that I'm going through, that we're going through. So we might as well take all advantages, for lack of a better term, right? Take advantage of this to make something good.
I went and watched Mike coach high school basketball on Tuesday. And when the game ended, we were talking, and the JV team was playing. And we're in the middle of a conversation, and then Mike just stops what he's doing and starts screaming at the kid on on the court, and then screaming at the ref, tee him up, boom, tee him up. And I'm just sitting there like, what? He doesn't have an off button, but when he sees guys not giving what they should be giving, he's not doing that kid. He's not doing right by that kid by not getting him to understand you're not giving me your best. I love that about Mike. So
those are the coaches that I love.
That kid was disrespecting the game, and you got to pay the price. You got to learn that. You got to learn that lesson right then and there. It's funny you bring that up, Dave. That still bothers me. That was a few days ago, and I let that kid know.
I can only imagine what practice was like yesterday.
Yeah, I let him have it.
There you go.
Never on my team ever. As long as I'm still coaching, you will never pull that shit again. Excuse my language.
Selfishly, like I want to pull some like coaching and hopefully some parenting pearls out, because I don't think there's a better, coaching my kids now. I'm extremely grateful. I was hesitant at first because, I feel like there has to be different voices, right? They have to hear a different voice. But dad is coach and dad is dad. It's actually cool because it's created two different voices in their heads. But with your team, and you said you're a yeller, you're passionate. What's the combination there? But Dave, you said his team's always even keeled. They're always level. When you think of passion, it's these highs and lows. How do you think that it sets the stage and lets them almost become just impervious to those highs and lows because they've experienced from you and you've prepped them so when the game comes or the situation arises, they can handle it?
Well, I think, listen, I think we can all agree practice is hard, and it should be hard. That's where we get our work in. You bleed in practice. And I think when you're pushing, I wouldn't say hard, but I'd say pushing to where they may think you're being hard on them in the practice field or on the court, at some point, because you practice more than you play games, and at some point you do start to get used to it. And then you start to realize, okay, I'm going to hear him yell. I'm going to let the yelling go in one ear and out the other, but I'm going to absorb the information that's being given. And also understanding that when you aren't following through and staying disciplined within what we're teaching, and the fact that you are the low man on the totem pole as far as that teammates than yourself. I think when they start to realize, it does eventually over time, they start to realize, okay, when I'm not doing my job, handling the task at hand as far as my job is concerned, they learn that in the practice field or the practice or on the court in practice. Eventually they just start to buy in, because a lot of times if you build a good enough culture in that program, the guys who don't buy in, they don't last long because the culture will just kind of push them out. We talk about having a cancer on the team, but if the culture is strong enough, they end up either just getting rid of that cancer or fixing it. Now, as far as, and I'm the first to admit, and Dave's going to laugh, I'm the first to admit, I shouldn't coach little kids. And I got stuck coaching little kids during the COVID year because no parent would volunteer. So I actually did not really want to coach my son in both basketball or baseball or really anything at all. but no parent would step up to volunteer during the COVID time. And I told parents, I'm like, listen, I'm used to coaching at a higher level. I made it very clear to them prior to the season. We had a meeting. I'm like, I'm going to tell you right now, like, I don't want to hear complaints. Your kids are going to earn playing time through practice. You can come to any practice you want. I'm telling you right now, if your son comes home crying because coach yelled at them, I'm telling you right now, they're telling you the truth. Okay. And I've been fortunate where all the parents are like, okay, well, he's very upfront and honest. But no, a lot of ways coaching your kid, and you'll learn this too. Coaching your kid, while it's been amazing and it still is amazing to be around my son, there's a little bit of a blessing and a curse in it because, listen, on the court and on the field, my son calls me coach, right? You do run into that strange realm of avoiding daddy ball. I don't do daddy ball. I would cut my own kid if he wasn't good enough. But with that being said, sometimes you find yourself being a little more difficult on your own kid to kind of overcompensate, avoiding the perception of daddy ball. But I've been fortunate enough to surround myself with enough other coaches where I can avoid that appearance. But it's like I said, it's a blessing and a curse because, I am tough on him. And there are points where when practice is over, we get in the car and he thinks he's got a little more leeway to say what he thinks he can say. And I'm like, yo, dude, you're still a player. Like, yes, we live in a democracy, but as a coach, I am a dictator. You are the player. Like, you will do what we say. I control your minutes. I control your innings. But again, at the end of the day, I mean, let's be honest. Do I really care? Does Dave really care that he lost the 2 games that year? Maybe in deep.
Yes, I do.
Hang on. You'll see my point. At the end of the day, Dave's and my approach. Yes, we want to win. Losing sucks. I hate losing more than I like winning, right? But at the end of the day, when you're teaching and coaching young men, our objective is to try to use this sport or any sport to turn these young men into great men beyond the sport. And I'm sure at the end of the day, Dave wishes all his players could go on to play Major League Baseball. But I'm sure he really likes to hear when one of his old players comes back and says, hey, coach, I'm now a partner of my law firm. I'm married. I got 3 kids. We're doing really well. Like, those are the big wins as a coach that you'll learn as you get older and you see these kids age and become actual, like, productive members of society. That's winning at that level for me, at least. I'm sure Dave can attest to that in some sort.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that stuff. I have a 7-year-old son right now, and I'm trying to manage, both sides and kind of walk that fine line. So it's and I know it's just the beginning, right? 7 years old compared to, playing like high school ball or something like that. But yeah, it's tough.
Well, you'll find a
tough
lot
to
of 7-year-old parents. They think their kids are signing contracts next week.
Oh my God, so many.
Yeah.
Coaching them right now in flag football. It's ridiculous. Some of these parents, but no, that's really good advice.
Yeah.
And that's something
the one thing I want to bring up too, that I'm like, so when we do talks like this, we don't always have this the shared experience of sports, right, or being on teams. And for me personally, and if I'm sitting on the couch with Freud over here, we probably dig into some subconscious reasons. But for me, like, I live my life, and very early on, my identity was with the team, right? I was a teammate. I was on the team. And, probably, like I said, it's probably being an only child and having kind of an unconventional background. And so gravitating to the collective. But there's something about growing up in athletics and being on a team. And I think, in working with young athletes now and kind of the years that I've done with leadership development, team building, I think the biggest, it's like, okay, what is it? Right? It's not the wins. Like, it's not the wins that galvanize you, bring you together. It's the losses, right? Like you hate to lose more than you love to win. And it's that shared adversity. Like, when you sit around and talk about stuff with your best buddies, your old teammates, you'll talk about the good times, but it was those hard times that's why I can call you after not seeing you for 8 years, or I can call you at 2 a.m. to come pick me up. Like so I think it's special that we get to have a conversation and we have that mutual understanding of what it is to be on a team and be a teammate.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, like, anybody in this group ever win a high school or collegiate championship? Like my junior year in college, we were 54-16 going to the College World Series. I couldn't tell you one thing about the 54 wins, but I could give you every inning and every pitch to the 16 losses that we had that year. And I'm a little different than Mike. Like, I wish I was driven by money and success. Not saying Mike is, but the wins and losses is the competition, and that's what drives me. I get up every day just, I am in agreement with Mike. When I was a high school coach, I didn't pitch the kid his senior year, who's now the center fielder for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he threw 93 miles an hour from the left. I didn't want to risk getting him hurt when I knew his career was going to be an outfielder. And he wanted to pitch, and his parents were pissed at me, but I knew what was best for his career. And, we still won. But but at the end of the day, like I knew all the people in my family, my circle, and I say, like, Mike is family, John McGardle is family. Those were the people that never allowed me to not give my best. And those are the people that, when I went to watch him coach the other night and I see John McGardle's court, whatever it said on the court, like that really made me happy, because it's people like Mike that these kids are going to remember. Mike Brown, I didn't tell you, I sent Mike Pitt that video you sent me of those kids. And I've seen Brownie coach 12-year-olds in baseball, and I'm sitting there with, like, my jaw to the ground, like, what the fuck is going on?
I saw that video. This is the one where everyone's like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah,
Like,
but,
it was the best. So fun.
But then when you talk to these kids, like, Mike's not going to let them leave Mike's not doing his job if he doesn't make sure these kids are performing at their utmost capabilities. And, I'm a little different. I'm a little more low level. I always tell my players my love language is ball busting. Like, I will make fun of my players every day, but the day that I don't make fun of you, that's the day you should be worried. But my kids understand, like, when we're doing conditioning drills, if you're not first, then you're not, like, I've got to see that push. Like, like 1% better every day is all I try to get my kids to understand. You're 1% better every day. This time next year, you're 3 times better than you were last year. And that's just what we do. And Mike's saying that as an athlete and as a person in life. Like, my philosophy to my players is I want assholes on the field and I want gentlemen off the field. And it all depends on what, like, I want kids to understand what I mean by that is I want everybody to hate you on the field, not because you talk the most crap or you're just the biggest D-bag. It's because they can't beat you, so they hate you. They don't even know you, but they hate you because they can't beat you, and you won't allow them to get in your head. So, like, that's my long-winded version of what Mike's saying there, I think.
Well, and I think, the connection here is obviously the Frates organization. I think that's one of the strongest teams that I know. And I kind of came at it from an outside perspective, right? I didn't go to St. John's. I feel like I'm an honorary St. John's guy now because we work with so many of them, and it's a brotherhood like I haven't seen before. But I came in from a perspective where I knew Pete just because I was in the baseball world, right? But that team and that bond has been really something that has been incredible to watch and also fun to be a small part of to kind of keep pushing, the train forward. But I understand that's where the three of you got connected, right? Was the event at St. John. So what made you make that drive where you first met Mike Pitt up to that event?
If I can tackle that one. So my sister lives in Topsfield, Massachusetts, and her two boys go to the prep. And when Mike and I have another very good mutual friend, a guy named Stuart Miller, when Stu was telling me about Mike and ALS, I was just randomly talking to my sister about it, and she's like, dude, Pete Frates went to the school where my boys go. So it was just one of those very weird coincidences that what was it, the 10-year anniversary?
Yeah, the 10-year of the Ice Bucket Challenge.
And my sister just told me to get up here, and she was going to try to send an email to Mrs. Frates and see if I could get her to meet Mike Brown. And we just showed up on the field that day and kind of just blended in. And then if you were there for that event, there must have been a few hundred kids there dumping water on them. I just approached Mike, and it was like an instant friendship almost. I was trying to just let them know what was going on with other Mike. And I feel like I talked to Mike P as much as I now talk to Mike B. So I just think it was, again, as much as I can't, God has a plan, man. And it's just one of those things where, I'm trying to learn as much about ALS as I can. And it's not sexy at all. I mean, it is like the end result is not even fun to even think about, but we've got to do our part. So I just think it was God's plan in this situation that my two godsons go to the same high school that Pete Frates went to, and it couldn't be a better partnership. And Mike Pitt has been absolutely unbelievable. Anytime there's an event, he invites us. I want to do the polar plunge, Mike, but I don't know if I'm going to be up there. But I don't think there's a better gentleman in this world than Mike Pitt for what he's done for me and Mike Brown. And I will forever be grateful. And even Mrs. Frates took an hour and a half after the event to talk to Mike. And both Mike and I were crying when we were listening to her. It's just, they're an amazing organization. They're amazing people, and God bless them, man.
I can echo that all day for Mike Pitt. Just as far as a teammate, class act, all that stuff. Pete, when he was diagnosed, was not the feel bad for himself type. He was like, let's get to work. What do we do? Let's go. And he went right at it. And, since he's passed, Mike Pitt has grabbed that torch and run with it. And that's been something as a friend, just to kind of see that and it gets you fired up, gets you, how can I help? And that's something that the Frates community and the foundation has really done too. It's just everyone wants to help. Everyone wants to get involved. So that's been really cool to see and great to be a part of from our standpoint. Is seeing, what Mike Pitt has done since jumping into that executive director role and really running with the torch.
Yeah, I would say too, part of getting up to Boston to meet everybody again, sort of to put ourselves in that situation to to be perfectly honest too, for me, it was kind of learning a little bit about what is going to happen, what we can do, how we can be a part of something, and also get an opportunity to listen. It's a pretty small, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, pretty small community of people who are really directly impacted or affected by this disease, which I think is still widely considered a very rare disease. That again, after 100 years, we have nothing, right? And sort of being able to talk to people who were directly in front of it on a daily basis. I've befriended people. The other thing, people, I've never met Pete. I'm sure he would kind of laugh with me at the thought of this. But I've befriended others who have been inflicted with this disease, and they're all way older than he and I. I mean, he was significantly younger than I being diagnosed. I'm only 43. I was diagnosed at 42. I think he was, 27, 28 years old. But a lot of the people I've befriended, I've been around, they're like mid to late 60s, early 70s. Not that it makes it any better, but it's just trying to meet those who can really, people say, dude, I can only imagine what you're going through. And I'm like, yeah, you can imagine. That's why it's called an imagination, right? Your mind can take you to what you think it would be like, and it's probably every bit as of what you think it would be like. But then to actually speak to those who were directly impacted, like I said, it was in their face every day. When I met Mr. Frates, and he was like, you know what? When they put that vent in Pete, he's like, that's when things really got real. Like, it was real, but he's like, that was a big, big moment. And I'm like, you know, I mean, how many people do we know other than, maybe the people in this chat really have experienced something to that level? I never have. I've never met anybody with ALS until now. Until I've never gave it a second thought. It never even came to mind, right? So to get the opportunity to meet people who have had such a major impact in trying to help people in my shoes, right? And listen, I am a realist, right? What we're doing, or what you guys are doing, whatever we can do to be a part of what the Pete Frates Foundation, there's a high likelihood it might not be to help me. It's going to be to help our kids' generation and beyond. I mean, because I will tell you, and like I said when we first started, it is a grind. My one buddy, good friend of mine I work with, he's a Navy SEAL, and we were laughing, and he's like, you have a disease that literally it's going to get worse before it gets worse. And I'm like, yeah, there's no getting better. And I was fortunate enough I was at an event with the Phillies, because the ALS Mid-Atlantic chapter they've had a long-standing relationship with the Phillies. It was their 40th year anniversary. I'm was invited. I'm sitting at a table with Larry Boa, a former longtime Philly shortstop and manager and assistant coach in the big leagues for years. And he said to me, he goes, "Can I ask you?" I was like, "Coach, you can ask me whatever you want." He goes, Are some days better than others? I said, "Coach, it's a great question." I said, "I'm going to explain to you like this. Every day is literally as bad as yesterday or slightly worse. It's just one of those messed up diseases that there's no improvement, no getting better." And he just kind of looked back and he just went, wow. So to be able to meet Mr. and Mrs. Frates and guys like you who are directly impacted and saw it at firsthand, to sort of gain that perspective and understanding of what I'm going to go through. And again, I tell people all the time, it's not what I'm going through, it's what we're going through. And I often think to myself, and you guys can personally attest to this, I think I have it the easiest. I think the people around me are going to watch what's going to happen to me, and it's going to be way harder on them to watch. Again, not to my own horn. Dave mentioned earlier, guys, I was a gym rat. I was in the gym 7 days a week, sometimes twice a day. I was the ram on when we would do warrant. I'm the guy kicking the door in, and so physically, I think others to see me deteriorate the way that I currently am, I think might be harder on others because mentally I'm strong. And again, I'm sure you guys can attest that because you watched a Division I athlete, a young, strong man deteriorate right in front of you every day. Right, you literally are watching a man die right in front of you every day, which I think it has to be harder on you guys than it is on guys like me and Pete.
Oh, there was a lot of things that you guys both resonated. The one thing though, you always bring it back. And Mike, obviously, you're a selfless guy, and he's saying like a lot of people, and for good reason. When you get a diagnosis, when you get a struggle like this, a battle to fight, there's always the hesitation to wallow in it, right? Why is this happening to me? And then, but you do multiple times just here remind us like it's happening to all of us. It's happening to the team, and that's one of the things I think why this unfortunate team and this unfortunate brotherhood is so strong. Is that it's the team. So we're not all wearing the same jerseys. We're not all alumni at the same school. But the main thread that what creates a team or a teammate, it's the shared experience. But as we focused on, it's the shared adversity. It's the shared struggles that tie and bind us. And so, like Dave, when you said when we first met, it's like right off the bat, like we're buddies, we're teammates because we have that shared adversity. We know we have that common experience, those common struggles, or at least we know we're going to experience something similar, and that's what binds us together. And the team aspect, I always say, I mean, and this is every major disease, but it needs to be focused on 100%. This affects the patient. This affects the one afflicted, but it's a team disease. It's a family disease. It's your friends. It doesn't just affect, the individual.
And it's become baseball's disease. Like that is something that I think, Pete pushed a ton of momentum for this, but it's something even just the MLB has really gravitated towards and got a hold of. And then you see colleges getting involved with the ALS games at Fenway Park and stuff. It's really, as far as 5 baseball guys, it's become the baseball disease too. So that shared adversity goes across the entire sport now.
Yeah.
And I think I would just add that the one really thing that I'm happy about is being connected with the two of you, because I know the Frates team just got a hell of a lot stronger. And if you need to do the yelling or whatever it is that we need to do here, to keep this train rolling, I think that's a good thing. But I just wanted to, as we're coming up against it here on time, favorite baseball memory. I love asking this question. Usually it's over a couple of beers, and a lot of times it's not the happiest memory, as we touched on. But I'd like to hear from you both. David, favorite baseball memory. You have one shot at this. What is it?
My favorite baseball memory, does it have to be me, or is it just my favorite baseball memory?
Would I take it whichever way you want?
Wow.
Maybe why you love the game too. Like one moment that reminds you why you love the game.
Well, wow. Okay, I've got it. So I'm at LaSalle University now, but I grew up a diehard Philadelphia Phillies fan. And I'm going to say it's the 1980 World Series. I don't know if you guys were alive back then. We can remember that far back. But I have a player on my team right now that's here training. His name's Pete Rose the third. He's the grandson of Pete Rose. So, like, I remember when baseball became my everything. This is going to be very weird memory, but the Phillies were in a tight match with the Kansas City Royals. And I can't remember who was hitting for Kansas City, but he hits a foul ball to the first base dugout. And Pete Rose and Bob Boone, who's the catcher, run over to the dugout. And Bob Boone was supposed to catch the ball. And you remember this, Mike? He catches it and it pops out of his mitt. And then Pete Rose catches it for the third out. And then Pete Rose is famous for taking the ball and spiking it to the ground in the third out. That is probably, I was 6 or 7 years old when that happened, but that was the moment that I knew that I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. You know, everybody asks, what you want to do when you grow up? It was always to be a Major League Baseball player, and it was because of the 1980 Phillies in that moment. Like, there's a lot of good moments in my career, but like that is my memory.
It's gonna be a hard one to top there, Mike. That's a good one.
Yeah, well, so it's funny when the question was posed, I was thinking more as a player as opposed to a fan, because one thing immediately jumped out as a fan, as a player, which it's kind of a comical story. You're like, man, why is that one of your favorite moments? It just kind of epitomizes kind of like who Dave and I kind of are as you know, and you guys do Northeast old school grinding baseball kind of guys. So it's my freshman year. I did not hit well my freshman year or my sophomore year in college either. But my freshman year, we're playing, I think we're at Vanderbilt. And my freshman year, Temple was good. We actually won the A-10, went on to the regionals. We had several guys who wanted to play professional baseball. But at the time, Skip Wilson, who was a tough coach to play for, he was old school. I mean, I loved him. I knew him since I was a little kid, stayed in the area. And the assistant coach was that guy, John McGardle, as well, which is kind of funny. So playing Vanderbilt, I mean, it's a tight game. Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt. They were still that good then. And we're in a game that we probably shouldn't really be in. It's like 7-4 or 8-4. It's within striking distance. And they put me in for defensive purposes. And it was a first and third situation with 2 outs. I'm catching, obviously. And lo and behold, I missed the sign. I was supposed to. The runner took off. I was supposed to throw. I was supposed to throw down the third. I missed the sign, and ultimately I ended up coming up firing, throwing down the second base. Shortstop's covering the bag. Second baseman, who to this day I laugh, saved my collegiate career and scholarship. He was so good at baseball. He was one of the best players I've ever played with. This guy, Jim Tully, naturally, just as he comes in, cuts the ball off. The guy from third breaks. He throws home, tag him out of the inning. So on the surface, right, phenomenal play. I get into the dugout, and holy shit, you would have thought that I absolutely just ruined my coach's life, and he absolutely undressed me in front of everybody. It just tore me apart. I mean, for the whole inning. It wasn't just like one batter, 2 batters. It was until they got 3 outs about how. If I ever want to do anything that I want to do that he doesn't want to do, just absolutely tore me apart. And I'm like, oh my God, is this ever going to end? And then, of course, being the guy that he is, right, and having that switch I remember after the game, and he goes, son, I mean, this guy's 74 years old at the time, been coaching there for 40 plus years. He calls me in we're in a hotel, calls me and he's like, son, you ever do anything that you want to do that I don't want to do, you'll never see the field ever again. You should probably think about transferring. When coach, it will never happen again. He goes, all right, son, I love you. See you on the field tomorrow. Like, and that was it. It was done. It was
Hold
done.
on. Didn't you told me that story before? Didn't he punish you in practice the next day where he made you go catch bullpens?
Catch bullpens when
He made
no
him go down the
bullpens.
left field line where there was no pitchers. He basically just made Mike stand in the left field bullpens for 3 hours of practice.
Watch practice. Hey, listen, I never missed a sign ever again. But that is one of my. And it's odd to make that because baseball is funny, right? It's a measurement of your failures.
But isn't it funny that you asked the story about our best memories, and it's not like our actual best memory, but it's what athletes remember. Like from Mike's standpoint, is probably the worst thing of his life. It was actually one of the best outcomes, but that's the memory that at the time he was probably crushed. Like, am I ever going to play again? And now we're laughing about it 25 years later.
It was effective coaching.
Guy was the best. That's funny.
Guys, I got one thing for us too. I got a question for you. Just in the vein of the teammates and being on a team, when I worked with other teams and athletes in high school, college, some pros, we always had standards of a teammate, and our main standards were you set the example and you hold your teammates accountable. And one of the main characteristics of being a great teammate is selflessness. And selflessness we defined as someone who takes strain, who does more than their job. Don't just do your job, do more so the team prospers and accomplishes the mission, gets the win, whatever the end goal is. And you guys can't cop out. You can't say each other. Who was the best teammate you guys had? It could be Pop Warner. It could be Little League. It could be high school, college. It could be professional. Who are the guys that who set those standards and set that example?
Why don't you go first, Mike?
Okay. So I played. Mine's pretty easy. I played. Well, the guy I just mentioned, he's up there. But there's other guy who actually they played high school baseball together and then went on to play college baseball. This guy, Rob Cucinato, and he was like a physical specimen, 6'4", 230, first baseman. And he hit balls to the alleys that looked like a 3 would coming off the club. He was so big and strong, and just so good at first base. Actually played, I think, 2 years in the Red Sox organization. And here's a guy who he didn't care who you were, what year you were. He exemplified that he was just such a nice person, no matter how good you were, how bad you were. He was one of the nicest teammates I had ever been around in my time, and welcomed everybody. So when you have somebody who is so willing, who's so good, right? Because I played with other players who are really good, and they're just kind of a little arrogant. They're standoffish on their own.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose Mike?
I think we lost him.
Right in the middle of that good story.
I know.
Damn it.
Tough timing.
David, how about you? You got one?
I mean, I do, but mine isn't one person. So in my freshman year of college, we were a very good team, 45 win college baseball team. We were top 20 in the country. But at the end of that season, almost the entire team was drafted into professional baseball. My entire outfield, our entire infield, all either were drafted or graduated. So the 94 Clemson baseball team was basically a bunch of new kids and nobodies. We were going to start maybe 7 or 8 sophomores that hardly had any, everyday experience at the college level. And at the beginning of that season, we were predicted to finish, if I remember correctly, either near the bottom or dead last in the ACC. And it was supposed to be a rebuilding year. We had an interim head coach named Jack Leggett, who's now a 1,700 Division I college coach and a legend. But it was supposed to be that year where nothing was supposed to be great for the Clemson Tigers. And as a unit, we just all decided if we're going to be any good, we've got to hold each other accountable. So practices were insane. Like nobody wanted to finish last in conditioning. If we screwed up, we asked to be punished. We actually invented, I don't know if in the baseball world you ever heard of the Omaha Challenge. That the Clemson Tigers of the 1994 team invented the Omaha Challenge in Division I baseball. Now just about every Division I sport does it. It's gotten a little crazy now where they do like dodgeball, tug of wars, you pull cars. It's crazy. But when we did it, it was about competition. And, I was 6'5", a $175. My junior year in college, I hit like 340, stole 20 bags, was one of the best triple hitters in the country, had 15, 20 doubles. But I only had 1 home run as the 3 hitter for the Clemson Tigers. So when we lost to Auburn that year, I needed to put on weight. So the point of my story is those bunch of nobodies, we pushed each other harder than anybody pushed anybody. And then a bunch of no-names went out that year and won 57 games. And we became the number 1 team in the country, and we started to break attendance records. And when you look at that team, nobody on that team was supposed to even make the team. So I'm not going to say there was any one individual, but I will say that the 94 Clemson Tigers was probably every bit of that group of guys that, like Mike talks about, that pushes you to another level. If I didn't sprint to first in a scrimmage, I had somebody jack me up against the wall and say that's not going to happen again. And in turn, if somebody did that, we would do the same. And everybody held everybody accountable. And so if I can just say the 94 Clemson Tigers, that's my answer. So
Badass team right there.
That's awesome.
I went to a football game with Mike last week, and I saw Mike from 9 o'clock in the morning to how he was at 5 o'clock in the afternoon after the Eagles game ended. And like, I called Mike right away and said, this is not good. Like Mike couldn't walk. He was having trouble talking. Like my goal with Mike is he's a fighter, and like you should see this kid every day, man. Like he's at basketball practice, baseball practice, he's at lifts. Then he's going to get hair removal on his head and his face so that his wife doesn't have to shave him when he can't take care of himself anymore. Like this guy's an animal, man. And my job is to get him into college coaching. And I'm hoping that he is around next year when we start. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like Mike P, I don't know if you saw any of this with Pete, but like I feel like every day when he's telling you it's worse than the day before, I think it's going a little faster than we're anticipating. So,
Yeah,
There's no doubt your players are going to rally around Mike. Like when Pete joined up as far as like helping coach and be a part of, Boston College baseball, when he was even confined to a wheelchair, like that team rallied around him. So yeah, Mike's a fighter, clearly. First time talking to him today, but your players are going to fall in love with that guy.
Yeah.
You're going to have a strong team.
We've managed to. We're striking up a deal with the Phillies that we're gonna next year. We will host Boston College at Citizens Bank Park. There he is.
Sorry, guys. I don't know what.
Dude, get better internet, bro.
Yeah, guys. My apologies. Sorry.
But we will be partnering up with the Phillies and hopefully the Frates Foundation. We will play Boston College next year at Citizens Bank Park. They're going to give us one day. In 2027, that's my goal with Mike B, is we're hosting a weekend at Citizens Bank Park where all of Pete's college coaches, Pete Hughes is now at Kansas State, Todd
I lost some audio there.
Yeah.
How
ironic.
Mike back, and David goes. I know, right? As soon as he said that.
Yeah.
I think it's that
Some purpose.
Did it freeze?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
He's back.
You're back.
Yeah.
He's back.
This is when it looked like.
Did I freeze too?
Actually.
As soon as you said, the bad audio or the bad Wi-Fi connection for Mike, then yours went to shit.
It's a poor spot. It's a poor spot.
You were saying, talking about all of Pete's former collegiate coaches.
Yeah, so we got all of Boston College coaches now. Hughes at Kansas State, Interdonato at Boston College, Gambino at Penn State, and Coach Aoki at Richmond. In 2027, we are going to try to host an ALS collegiate baseball weekend at Citizens Bank Park with Mike and the Pete Frates. Hopefully, Frates Foundation can get involved, and we can raise a lot of money for ALS. And the Phillies, I know Mike said it, the Phillies are big with the ALS as one of their main charities. So we're hoping we can do a lot of good. But, like, Mike's got to be coaching my catchers in 27.
That's right.
Right, Mike?
That's right. I'll be there.
We might have to make a little team trip out there.
Yeah, you guys got to be there.
Would love to. I'll bring the whole family out.
Yeah, and Dave and Mike, I had some other ideas too of how, but yeah, we got to talk offline how to maximize that event, but also the visibility with MLB. They've stepped up to the plate. I'd like them to take some more swings, so to speak, at the ALS fastball. So I got some ideas how maybe we could push them to do that.
Yeah. I'm in, man. I'm 100% all in. Like, Brownie's my brother, man. I love him to death. And, like, whatever he needs, I'm here, man. And we got a whole team in Philly that's right with him. So.
Oh, we're with you, too. And, we'll be rooting for LaSalle, a couple of big fans over here now all of a sudden.
Yeah,
so
I got to get some gear sent up your way, so I'll try to get more than one T-shirt.
Just take it easy on my just take it easy on my Merrimack College Warriors, will you? If you cross paths with them. Yeah. But yeah, guys, I think I hit the nail on the head here at the beginning where I said if you get 5 baseball guys together, we'll talk all day. Because I think we could keep going for a couple of hours here, but this was awesome. I really am looking forward to meeting you two in person at some point. Because I'm sure there's going to be some events coming up here, but just wanted to say thanks, Mike Pitt for setting this up and meeting both of you. This was unbelievable, and we're right behind you with everything that's happening right now.
Appreciate that. There's hours for sure.
Yeah, Mike, I want to just give you the floor and let you kind of sign off however you think appropriate.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, the odd thing, and I'll be quick. But my big thing that I've learned through this insane thing is, and we can all learn from it. I'm just annoyed that to me 42 years, 10 months, and a terminal disease, a death sentence of sort, to realize that all of us, we have 0 days to waste. That's my thing. Just 0 days to waste in anger, sadness, or distraught, or having that vengeful mentality. I mean, we have our moments, but we need to figure out how to get out of those moments, and understanding that even people in my position, right, I recognize out there that there are people who are in way worse situations than I, and that I'm very lucky and blessed to have such an amazing support group. My brothers and sisters in law enforcement, it's a huge group. The baseball community, my close friends, of course, my family. I have an amazing family. So this horrible, treacherous, just insidious disease opened my eyes to a lot of amazing things. It's truly become a blessing and a curse at the same time, and it's provided opportunities for me to meet people like you guys, to try to be a part, just a little cog in something that's way bigger than we are. Because my new outlook and perspective is to help change and alter, or make people come to the realization that there are more important things in life than the tedious things that we get hung up about. But again, I can't thank you guys enough for the support, because in reality, guys, Dave and I are strangers. For you to essentially open up your home to us and welcome us in and join this fight that he and I and all of our friends have agreed to take on, is, again, I said, it's our honor to be here with you guys. And listen, if we have an opportunity to do this again, if we get invited back, I'd love to do it. So keep up the good fight, guys. You know I'm going to fight until I can't. I'm going to keep doing what I can until I can't. All right. So just thank you.
Love it. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
I love you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. This is a good place to leave off.
Awesome. Well,
I appreciate all you guys did. And yeah, thanks for having us on, man.